Hello there. It's good to have you again on today's episode of Health and Environment Insights. I am Kemi Adeni. Today on the program, we'll be discussing how plastic pollution affects public health. And to join me today on this conversation, I have Dr. Oluwole Terebo. He is the Director, Pollution Control, Ondo State Environmental Protection Agency. Dr. Oluwole, it's good to have you here today.
I'm glad to be here.
Good to have you on the program. And so today we're going to be having a conversation around plastic pollution as it affects our health, generally. And so I'd like us to start this way. What exactly is plastic pollution? Breaking it down in the simplest form for us to understand.
Okay. Plastic pollution. Let me start by talking about plastic. Then I'll also simplify what pollution is. Plastic is made of there are three different types.
Okay.
And we have the first one, which is polyethylene. We have bisphenol and the polyvinyl chloride. These are three types that forms what is called plastic. And they have their different uses. Then the polyethylene, they are used in packaging, like the styrofoam and all of that.
Okay.
And use this one
packaging food.
Packaging foods.
Okay.
Then the other one is, they are the one that are used in the medicals and the automobiles. Making some of the products of automobiles and in the medical circle. Then the polyvinyl chloride, they are the ones that are used in buildings in our home, called PVC. So let's come back to pollution. Now, pollution literally means altering the environment. When you alter or you degrade the environment in any form, the air, the water, and the soil, then we see what is called pollution. Then coming back to plastic pollution now,
right.
Plastic pollution is the accumulation of plastics into this media, air, land, and water.
Now, how is plastic so safe for our daily lives? How do we identify the types? You have enumerated the different types we have that makes up what is called plastic. Now, how do we individually identify the type of plastic that is safe for use?
Well, when you talk about plastics, like I said, the one-time use plastics, they are not good for our use because plastics, they are non-biodegradable. They don't degrade. And when we use some of these plastics, what is next is we dispose.
Okay.
Indiscriminately into the environment. Because most of the users, they don't even know how to manage these plastics. And they throw it away into the environment. And these plastics, they will find their ways into our water bodies, lakes, and streams.
Okay. Now, because we're also aware that there are some health and environmental risks that this plastic constitute. Why is it still generally acceptable if they constitute some form of health hazard to us?
Well, let me take us back. In the 50s, the number of plastics that we generate that time is about 2 million tons.
Okay.
But
At that time?
At that time. But in a period of about 70 years later, we produce as much as 450 million tons of plastic. You can see the trajectory. is so huge.
That's a lot.
And it is not unconnected to population explosion, but I think we should work to ensure that we minimize the promotion, we minimize the use, and we encourage or we discourage the use of one-time plastic, like the styrofoam that we use in parties, because they are non-biodegradable. They don't break down.
I'd like you to really give us a better explanation, especially as regards the use of styrofoam. Because I know at some point the Lagos State government had to put a sanction on those food handlers that make use of them. Now, what health hazard do styrofoams constitute?
Of course, when this styrofoam gets their way to the streets, in low-income communities, possibly they are burnt, indiscriminately open burning. You know what that means? It is not encouraging. When you burn this styrofoam, it releases some chemicals into the air, like fine particulate matters. And you know the beginning of this is that it's going to increase the greenhouse gases like carbon oxide, which is normally referred to as carbon dioxide, and other chemicals, and some heavy metals. They escape into the air, which alter the atmosphere, and give rise to ozone layer depletion, which is one of the global concerns today when we're talking about climate change.
Okay, now let's take plastic.
Then that is about burning. Right. Then when this styrofoam or any plastics gets into the water bodies, because when you throw it outside, it passes through the drainage system into the nearby lakes, into the nearby rivers, find itself into, at the end of the day, into the sea. What happens? You know, we have lives within the aquatic environment.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you know what happens? The wildlife within the aquatic system ingest some of these plastics. Okay. Yeah. You know, it forms part of our food chain. Oh. They ingest some of these plastics. And some are even entangled, like the nets. You know, when some of these fishermen are done with their fishing, they leave the nets. Oh. Some of the nets, you know, in this environment, and some of these aquatic organisms, they are entangled, and this can cause serious setback within that environment.
Now I know that the season of the rains is here, the rainy season is fast approaching, and I know that when you drive by or you take a walk immediately after the rain or whilst the rain is going on, you discover that this plastic constitutes a high percentage of the waste that passes through those drains. Now, what that tells me is we're generating quite a handful of this plastic. Now, are there alternatives to using plastics that are still healthy?
Well, before I go into the alternatives, I don't know whether in recent times when you drive around, yes, you discover that the plastics, you will find out that there have been great reduction in this indiscriminate disposal of these plastics.
Absolutely.
Because the Ministry of Environment, and as well in collaboration with this agency, Congo State Environmental Protection Agency, we have partnered with some NGOs through the support of the State Agency, Lucky, we are really working on zero plastics disposal in our states. We have people. How is that achievable? People are picking plastic. You go to parties now, before you leave your seat, people already pick those plastics.
Because I know they recycle them.
Yeah. Is a source of income for some people. So you hardly see plastic littering our environment nowadays
Anymore.
anymore. So Ondo State government is working. We are working as an agency in collaboration with Progressive Ministry of Health to ensure that we have zero plastic disposal.
And that brings me to ask you that, I mean, as a director in your agency, what form of sensitization, public sensitization, are you engaged in? You know, so people can know that this is what to do and what not to do as handling their plastic waste.
By the Spirit grace of God, November last year we held we had a forum 2024 on this plastic waste. And by the Spirit grace of God, this year we held two programs, and we lay so much emphasis on this plastic pollution. And we are sensitizing through radio jingles and all other forms of reaching out to people, to discourage people.
Including social media?
Yes.
Because that's the thing now.
Yeah, that is what we're doing now, to sensitize people, to ensure that people realizes that plastics is not good for us. Plastic use is not good for us. So we should look for an alternative. So the alternative that we have, that we can explore here, is one, discouraging one-time use plastics like the styrofoam. You know. Then again, we are also trying to ensure that plastics, like I said, you hardly find plastics around. You know, are recycled, are recovered, recycled, and used. So with that, plastic will not be, plastic pollution will be a thing of the past in the States, and that is the level at which we are right now.
Now let's talk about the recycle, the recover, recycle, and reuse. In what way are you enlightening people in that regard? That they should ensure at some point here of this program we were taught that we need to compartmentalize our waste. And so how do we handle these plastics in such a way that it doesn't have to be with our general waste, and that's a source of recovery, right? Now, how do we recycle? Does your agency have recycling machines, or how do people recycle them in Ondo State, for instance? Because I can generate waste and have my plastic put together. Now, when that is done, what do I do? What next should I do?
Once you have your plastics,
yes,
what you do, we have different non-governmental agencies that attracts these people to sell.
Right.
So when they are sold, that is the aspect of recovery.
Also, we can actually generate money off it.
Yeah,
that sounds interesting to me, and I'd like you to discuss a little. I mean, as a woman, the mention of money will trigger my interest. And so I'd like you to pause a little. After the break, we'll come back to that. We'll go on a short break now. When we return, this conversation on plastic pollution will continue. Stay with us. On the conversation before the break, Dr. Oluwole Terebo. He is the Director of Pollution Control, Ondo State Environmental Protection Agency. Now, before we went on break, we were talking about recycling as a means of generating income. Now, can you elaborate on that? Can you tell us more about it?
In developed countries,
yes,
when you return your plastics, you get some discounts. I think these are the programs we are working on, so that when you buy something that has plastic packages, when you return, then you get some discount. But in Nigeria here, I think we have recycling factories all over the place, and I think this has encouraged people, to look for plastics and sell. So when they sell, these are recycled packages. Like in those days, when you choose your plastic, you just throw it indiscriminately into the streets.
True.
And it's constitutes by the climate. Is it by burning? Is it that when they find its way to the aquatic environment, ingested by these wildlife, constitute pollutants, even navigation within the aquatic environment very difficult, and all of this, if we are able to, get these plastics from the users, get them recycled, and it can be remolded into something else, that will be of benefit to the society.
I know that if plastic is recycled, it can be made into plastic bags, shopping bags, and a whole lot, buckets, and all other plastic products. Now, aside that's a part A. How in Ondo State are we buying into this? Now, I'm also aware that there is some applications now in some parts of the country where on the click of your phone, you can request for your plastic waste to be picked. It is scaled, and they give you some units. Some people actually even monetize it, and they take the plastic off you for onboard processing of recycling. Now, do you have such programs or applications in use in your office as a director?
Right now,
do you have
such program, but we're working on that.
Okay.
To ensure, to see how we can buy back some of these plastics and give those end users some way of economic empowerment in the concept of that. So we are working on that. Like I said, we held the summit last year. It was on the plastic pollution, and we have held 2 forums, and plastic pollution were discussed in these 2 forums. So we are evolving, and we are trying to see how we can ensure zero plastic pollution in those things.
Now, I put it to you, how can we reduce the plastic footprints in our daily lives?
Yeah, this one is by bringing alternative to plastics.
Like what else? We buy table water, we use take-out bowls at parties, to package our meals. We even use it. Children also use it as well. Now, most of the time when you have a party and you do not want people, it's not the type that is banquet where people sit. You can actually package food and give them to consume. And we're also aware that some people say it's actually not healthy to put such plastics in the microwave to warm your food. Now, give us a form of enlightenment in these regards, even so we can have a healthier life.
Right. That's a very good question. I'm thinking, you see, the use of plastic should be discouraged. The plastic, at times you see, the plastic we're talking about, some will even put it in microwaves, some will we have some chemicals. Like I told you the other time, I said polyethylene is a chemical, polypropylene is a chemical, polyvinyl chloride is also a chemical. All of these things are different types of chemicals, are different types of chemical composition that are made of plastics. Now, this plastic, even in the course of making these plastics, we have, they will put in color, it's a chemical. They put in additives, these are chemicals. They put in flame retardants, these are chemicals. They put in stabilizers so that they won't be easily degraded. All of these are, infused into these plastics. Are you understanding? Yeah. So when you now this plastics. When you now, for instance, some people, when you microwave your food,
Yes.
and at high temperature, when you subject these plastics, under high temperature,
Yes.
it releases some chemicals into that food.
Well, we're made aware that there are some of these plastics that have a inscription on them that they are microwave safe.
I don't think there is any. As long they are made of polyethylene, polypropylene, or which I've mentioned some of these things that are added to these plastics.
Yes.
Flame retardants, color, stabilizers, additives, all these things, they are natural.
So you're totally discouraging the use of it?
Yeah, because of the health hazards. Because when you microwave or when you expose these plastics
to high temperature,
we have some people, maybe they're taking bottled water, they leave it in the car is in the sun, maybe
so you shouldn't take it anymore.
You don't take it anymore because certain chemicals must have leached into that water or into that food. So some of these chemicals, they are highly deleterious to our health. They can induce cancer. They can cause hormonal disruption. They can cause, reproductive dysfunction.
Wow.
They can cause cancer. Major cancer. So it is not advisable that we should propagate the use of plastics.
Okay, so Dr. Oluwole, as we're rounding off on this note, I'd like you to tell us what's your plan for this advocacy to get to even the rural communities in your state?
Yes, as you know, we cannot achieve this advocacy in a day. So we are already on it, and we are setting summits, and we are reaching out to more people.
And this is also an avenue.
Yeah, this is an avenue. The opportunity are giving us to tell people in other states that the use of plastics must be discouraged.
Thank you very much indeed for your time. We appreciate this, and I look forward to having you on the program one more time. And so on this note, we're going to round off, and I'll let you know that you need to do better so to ensure that your wellness is your priority. I look forward to having you again on this program next week. See you, and it's bye for now.